I'm the CEO for Integral. We're an STC Astro company, and we take care of content for telcos. The topic today is obviously, hopefully a little confrontational, traditional players versus OTT. And when we talk about traditional, what I'm talking about is traditional telco, pay television, and free-to-air as well. And how they are going to compete against the onslaught of OTT. Can they compete? Can they partner? What are the answers? OTT, of course, means more than video. OTT can be everything from voice and many other services that telco have been running, as well as, obviously, pay TV and free. Obviously, our focus today will be video, and thus it gets into areas that are now being dominated by players like Netflix, Hulu, iPlayer, as the kind of app-only versions. Then you've got your boxes, your Apple TVs, your Roku, and now your Amazon Fire. There's many of those out there, and there's many more to come. You've got your free players, your YouTube, your Vivo, your Vine, which is a new player but incredibly successful. You've now got your multi-channel network players, Twitch, Makers, Vice. If you don't know about those guys, do some research. These guys are the up and coming. They're the new players. New content is being created from those guys. And of course, BitTorrent. BitTorrent is obviously a major impact on all of us in regards to the content availability, the use of network, etc. to get it. So before I get into the actual topic, could I have the panelists explain a little bit who they are and their companies? Over to you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Ben. My name is Raid Kushaim. I'm the CEO of Television. So, and we are based in Saudi Arabia. We offer OTT services and video on demand and TVOD and so on.
And that's a box that you sell through retail?
Yes, it's off the shelf, as well as we do collaboration with some telcos.
And it's free to air and OTT into the box?
Yes, sir.
So you're on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. Now, over to you, Mahesh. You work for Datamina, which is a Do company. What does Datamina do?
Thank you, Ben. Datamina is an initiative from Do. In this case, a traditional telecom operator, a highly innovative telecom operator. Datamina is a carrier-neutral transit data center, which we have done along with Equinix. It's a partnership with Equinix. We provide a data center space for content players, cloud providers, and CDNs to reach out into the region. So we host the UAE Internet Exchange. This coupled with, I also lead the teleport and broadcasting business for Do, which some of you might know as Summercom earlier. So this ties into providing a complete broadcasting and content delivery package for our customers, from traditional satellite-based delivery to internet exchange, over-the-top delivery platform.
So once again, you're on all sides here. You're on the telco side, you're on the broadcaster side, and you're going to help OTT guys come into the market.
We are on the customer's side, so we want to give the customers the opportunity across all platforms that they want to release, across all screens that they want to be present on.
And Mustafa, you're from ARPU Plus. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm representing ARPU Plus, an Egyptian company, and we own a music platform called Mazika. Mazika is a new OTT for music, audio and video clips and audio files. It offers the content right now for free and supported, but we are working on offering advanced solutions through telecoms for the region. We are about to launch premium service in like 5 countries by end of this year, just for another way of entertainment other than video only.
So you're an OTT guy, but obviously you're worried about the free or illegal OTT services due to piracy issues.
Sure, because the most of the cost of our work is about content acquisition. And while we are paying for the content producers, the content aggregators, for the content rights, you find other people are just playing in the market without any kind of cost, and you already generate revenues. This kind of irregular market, and you cannot work with the end users to educate the whole 300 million people here just to go to the legal products rather than the illegal one. It's easier to fight together the regulations to prohibit these acts.
Well, let's hope we can answer some of those things. Now, Rob, you're from Ericsson. You take care of compression for Ericsson across a very large region.
Yeah, exactly. So I cover the EMEIA region for Ericsson. Ericsson have built up a portfolio of media companies over the last 7 years, starting with Tandberg Television, where I came from, right the way through to Media Room, for example, which we acquired from Microsoft, Fabrics, which we recently acquired, and also we host and manage services for other broadcasters as well. So we are looking obviously at the future. Ericsson do a lot of research into what's happening in video, and we have typically a window of about 6 or 7 years that we look ahead to try and forecast what we see is happening in the media industry.
And obviously you're coming from Ericsson, obviously on the telco space, Tandberg on the television space, very much the traditional players who are now also moving into the OTT space as defensive in many cases.
Right. Exactly. I think every broadcaster now has to have an OTT portfolio, if you like, that they're adding to their general delivery system, and that OTT portfolio has to encompass whether it's satellite, cable, terrestrial, or IPTV. And you can certainly see a merging of delivery platforms, so that no one player is just going to be a satellite broadcaster or an IPTV operator.
Okay, and then last but not least, Paulo from OSN. Obviously you take care of the digital platforms for OSN, so OSN Go, OSN Play. Can you give us more of that?
So yes, I'm here today wearing two hats. So on one side I'm the traditional pay TV company, so the leading pay TV company in the region. And the other side I'm working specifically on OTT projects. So it's going to be a very interesting debate. So I work specifically with Go by OSN, which is our standalone OTT offer, but integrated in a team where we also work on OSN Play, which is our catch-up TV service, which is an OTT service as well. So we have two products. One is a standalone product available for any consumer in the region, and OSN Play is a catch-up service for our pay TV subscribers.
Okay, well let's hope I can pull some controversial answers out of you in regards to wearing those two hats. Okay, so let's give a bit of a brief into this. And as I said, I'm trying to be a little bit confrontational here so that we can actually see that there's a couple of burning platforms. There's things we need to do now if we are to continue our revenues going forth in the future. And I mean, not just on the pay or free-to-air space, I mean the telco space as well. So let me start with the telco. And obviously there's less people here from the telco space, so this might be of interest to you. You probably already know it, but the telco effect. Right now, 60% of the data that flows over the internet, mobile and fixed, is video. Unmanaged video. Be that legal, illegal, be that streaming, download, BitTorrent, 60%. In the next 3 years, it's expected to get up to 90% of the traffic. All of it flowing around the network. Now that would be okay if everything stayed the same, meaning the data usage stayed. But what's happening here in telcos in this region alone is the data has gone up 4 times in 1 year in regards to the general consumption. You also have some other real issues, which is in this territory, we have some areas where LTE, meaning mobile broadband, is unlimited. You can get unlimited packages, which means you can watch a streaming TV channel and just leave it on with no extra costs. That obviously uses a lot of data, and there's going to be a lot more of that. Also, the costs themselves are very cheap compared to international. So we have some real issues there with the mobile broadband usage and how there's no massive new ARPU in that space, but yet the cost structures will go dramatically up, while the mobile voice, will start to plummet in the future as more VoIP services find their way through. So you have an issue where the telco space that's usually had massive margins. In the past with PSTN they had about 90%. Now they've got about 45% to 50%. As voice dies off and the mobile broadband is still very expensive, but the revenue earned from it is very low, the margins will shrink again. What to? We don't know, but it might be as low as 15%. So the telcos have got massive effect by OTT, particularly if they do nothing about it. There's also an effect of loyalty. Normally, telcos with a range of products have created loyalty In other markets, they sell SIMs and they sell phones altogether, or some sort of broadband services. But in many of the telcos in this region, they're just selling a SIM. And customers are finding themselves buying a SIM from each telco and moving across whichever has the cheapest data, which means there's no loyalty. And when you look at what are the brands in that kind of internet space, telco space that the customers look to, they're more akin to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, etc., as the loyal brands rather than the telco. So we have some real issues there that telco loyalty issue is pretty much faded away. On the broadcast side, obviously pay TV companies worldwide have been hit first. What we're seeing is, particularly in the States, where obviously cable and pay television has been prevalent for a long time, that has plateaued. And now you're not only getting cord cutters, meaning people who are moving off there because they don't see the value, you're getting cord nevers, meaning the youth who are not coming onto it at all. They don't see the value. And that's because you can actually find this content all online. All the premium content that the pay TV company had, movies, TV shows, kids, is all online. And now you're also finding sport, which is that last bastion of why you pay all those monies to get onto a pay TV service, is now also online. BN Sports now has live broadcast over their iPad service. And this is starting to break down in the States, even where we have ESPN breaking their service out from the telcos. So another effect there. Now, of course, this is all available because the speed of the internet is getting faster and faster and the reliability is there. And what's also happening is, therefore, this is not just for video on demand anymore. You're finding live TV or linear is now starting to come online, which is going to eat up a lot of usage, which is what I said before. You've also got reasons for this. The fact is that you can find a lot more content on the internet. You can find it easier. You can have recommendation engines drive that experience, and people get away from that appointment viewing to, I want to watch this now, or I want to watch all of it now, meaning the TV series, which is only possible on those online platforms. And when you look at the youth and kids, and I don't know how many of you guys have children of your own, my children, they don't watch TV anymore. They sit there with their iPads on YouTube or whatever, watching whatever they want to watch, but they're not the TV. You'll even find them in the lounge room with the television, sitting there on the iPad, TV off, watching the iPad. And to me, when I was a kid, I was transfixed by the TV. They're not even looking at it. Now, if that stays the same, and they go into adulthood with that, not only are you losing the advertising revenue, you're losing the subscription revenue that you could get out of those customers. So that's a big issue. So beyond that, what's happening? Well, a lot of these guys have been doing a fight back. They've been fighting back against the OTT. And at first, you had the defensive plays done by free-to-airs, Shahi.net, Hulu, iPlayer, defensive plays. You had the telcos, the pay TV companies, moving in with Sky Go or OSM Play or Go as another defensive area. But in many cases, they didn't put enough of their content into that space to make it really fantastic to stop people finding it going on online. You've also now got those guys moving into boxes. Sky launched a box called Now TV, a streaming box, plug it in yourself, doing fantastic business, and now actually changing the whole way Sky's looking at distribution, and they're going to look at OTT as a delivery in the future for their main box. This is going to start happening for telcos around the world. Then you've got your attackers. Now, when this all started happening, and even before this, in the States, you had a lot of the cable TV companies who were losing share, losing revenue to direct to satellite or to the IPTV providers. Based on new technology, DOCSIS 3, they were able to roll digital services over their analog cable networks. What happened is they quickly became better at delivering broadband than the telco over fixed. They could deliver faster speeds over that big fat copper pipe coming into all the homes. And now the cable companies in the States have more broadband customers than TV customers. You've also got Sky in the UK, and this is obviously copying what happened in the States, who were the number one pay TV provider in the UK, mostly due to the sport, the soccer that they had to actually drive the customers to the service, also realised they could actually drive customers over their cable networks. And they too started driving ISP services, and within a period of 5 years became the number one ISP in the country. which then forced BT to aggressively buy into sports and spend over $1 billion just to get a couple of matches a week, so to be able to drive customers back to their box and onto their broadband. This is continuing to happen, but you're getting this attacking each other style methodology. You're getting some evolutions and some acquisitions. Verizon just bought a company called Intel Media. Intel Media were building a fantastic OTT set-top box with the latest chipsets, plug and play. They bought into that as their platform for the future. We haven't seen it yet hit market, but it'll hit in a big way. AT&T bought DirecTV, the major satellite provider. They bought it for the customers, they bought it for the content, but what they also bought it for was DirecTV had acquired the rights to get all of that content over the top. And DirecTV had built a full OTT platform, which I've seen and played with, which is very good, that AT&T saw as another person who was attacking their broadband share. So they bought DirecTV. And as I mentioned before, you've got Sky now moving into the ISP space and getting more and more aggressive about that. And last but not least in this space, before I get into the questions, is what's the effect on content? The major Hollywood studios, indies, Bollywood, Arabic, all moved their movies online pretty much first. They did that through reasons of worrying about theft, having a great experience, and the video on demand is actually a fantastic experience of watching a movie. Search what you want, get it right now, high quality, on any device, fantastic. TV shows, TV series moved on. And what you'll find with the successful OTT players like Netflix, it's mostly TV viewing that drives that consumption. You've got even people like Netflix creating their own content, and one of the key differences they did is they said customers want to watch this as a binge. Let's just watch it all in one go, which adds real value to that OTT experience. YouTube, who was dealing with low-end content, cat falls down the stairs, started to create YouTube channels. And you got the rise of the MCNs, the multi-channel networks. And what's happening there is people are producing all types of content, from silly little things to well-produced. And they're changing the formats. No longer is it a 22-minute or a 45-minute or a movie. It's now 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever it may be that grabs that interest of that viewer. When you look at the investments that is happening within the video space, a lot of the investments lately are going straight to those YouTube-style MCNs. Twitch, who are a group of guys in a garage, created a streaming service using BitTorrent technology to be able to deliver other kids playing games to other kids. They got sold to Amazon the other day for $970 million after 3 years. Makers, who created content for got sold for a similar amount, $450 million to Disney, and then another $500 on a KPI bonus payout. And Disney bought them to be able to create new content for youth and attract youth back to Disney. Another company called Vice, who are creating online editorial content, Edgy, got bought by A&E, or 10% got bought by A&E, and they've now done another deal with the Canadian broadcasters to produce quality content, are now worth about $4 billion. So these guys are coming out of the woodwork, you like it or not. And when you look at the actual technology of OTT, it's easier, it's faster, as long as you're not paying for the network, it's cheaper. And this is the rise of the OTT threat against the traditional players. So what's the answer? Microphone? It's on?
So I was saying that OTT definitely is coming, and to what extent it's going to affect the broadcasters in this area, it all depends on the infrastructure of the internet. But this is growing, especially in the GCC, very fast. Having said that is also there is also a room for collaboration between broadcasters and the OTT providers. For example, we have initiated an initiative with Arabsat to provide HBB TV service, HBBTV stands for Hybrid Broadcast and Broadband TV. In this type of collaboration, broadcasters and the TV channels owners would be able to provide both the benefit of both sides, wherein they could broadcast the normal TV as well as the benefits of the OTT in the form of catch-up or catch-up TV or extended TV or watching the others, episodes of a particular show and so on. This is beside, of course, the social TV or collaboration with the social media like Facebook and so on. So this is an example of a collaboration between OTT and broadcasters. But at the end of the day, definitely we also watch viewers of TV. TV has its own magic because it's a big screen. So we do have measuring of the behavior of users, and we will find out that users are watching more of YouTube on the big screen, especially with these new smart TVs and smart set-top boxes where it allows applications like YouTube. So this is in general the overall effect, and it is dragging the users to watch more of one of the main reasons why people are doing this is they want to watch what they want at the time they want to watch it. Okay, so the time element is there, and then of course the element of geographically to be free, so they could watch whatever they want wherever they are. So on their mobile phone or iPad or while they are traveling, also they could access their favorite content, on the move.
So let me jump right to the end, and I'll come back for the next questions here. So Paula, obviously you're in a situation where you are taking premium content online, but is that enough? You're doing a defensive play that is obviously a lot of pay TV companies have done around the world, but is that enough? Are you going to put the really good content in there? What's going to happen?
Well, that's one of the key questions, of course. The pay TV market in the MENA region is not the same as in the US or even in the UK, where they are stagnated. Here, pay TV penetration in the region is still below 10%, so there's a lot of room to grow. And OSN has a premium positioning in terms of the content we offer, of course, in terms of the price we charge. So the key question is, how much shall we unbundle into a OTT proposition at an entry-level price? So we have a lot of content that we have exclusively. We have rights from all the major studios from Hollywood. We have just signed the WWE exclusive agreements. There's a lot more that we are offering that we can to do so. But we are not in the same position as Sky is in the UK right now. So it's a totally different
Well, you don't have the sport. Like, yes, you've got WWE, which some people says is sport, but you haven't got the EPL, you haven't got the Saudi League. Obviously, pay TV is in most territories become successful due to the local popular sport. Is that going to be an issue for the future for you?
Well, we're focusing a lot on the Western content and Arabic content, mainly movies, TV shows. We're just launched a campaign where we have one movie premiere every day. So we're focusing a lot on this.
So the answer I gather therefore OSN is that you can buy out the exclusive rights to the content, which then blocks any other legal service come to market, but obviously therefore piracy is a massive issue for you.
Of course. Mainly when you're dealing with online services, so the competition is completely unfair when you compare to such pirate services.
Now you also have a prevalence here, and I gather this affects all of us, is there's a huge prevalence of VPN in this territory. Some people are just leaving the VPN on and just watching all the services from the States, which means they can get to the Netflix, the Hulus, and everybody else. What's the effect on OSN from that? Have you got any gauge?
So we know that the usage of VPNs, mainly here in the UAE, is quite high.
Yeah.
Not the same across all the region, but that's de facto it's not piracy, but it's not legal either, so it sits in a gray area. And I think that the content owners and the players in the market have to build barriers to prevent that from happening. because these players are of course selling content and making money in regions where they don't have rights to do so.
What about, and I'll move quickly on after this, but there is one in-between player, Apple TV. Apple TV has obviously got a fantastic OTT service, sold, 20 million boxes now, about to evolve that to something more. Right now, you have to sign up per territory, and that's how they lock you down. But you can buy the cards, the US cards, and in some areas, you can only buy the US cards, which breaks all of the rights issues. Is there any way that OSN can talk to Apple and the studios and stop that from happening?
Well, of course, we need to have regular conversations with the studios about these topics, and yeah, there are a lot of things that need to be done.
So, but that hasn't worked yet, has it?
Well,
it's still selling.
You can't stop things from one day to the other, but we have a big team that's tackling these issues in particular. So all the piracy and this semi-piracy topics. So we're taking a very serious approach in this area.
We'll have this question, we'll come back at the end on the same question, because really this is what it's all about. You know, what can the traditional players do to defend themselves against OTT? So on to the next question. Telcos still make a lot of money. Even if they're second, third, they still make a lot of money in the market. A lot of them are now sticking dumb pipe. Dumb pipe is good enough. Dumb pipe means that they don't really manage what comes over the network, they just deliver a service. Mesh, this is something that obviously Do is aware of, and they might or might not be a dumb pipe. What's your philosophy here? What's your feelings?
First of all, let me answer by saying we don't believe it's all doom and gloom. We think that there is an opportunity in OTT, and the fact that we've built the whole infrastructure of Data MENA to enable OTTs and similar cloud and content players in the region. We have worked with the regulator to create the Internet Exchange, which allows for Internet to be peered in the region. We found that 97% of the Internet content was being accessed from Europe or from the US. And
how much was that?
97. So only 3% of the local content, the content was hosted locally. And if you look at the statistics of somewhere like Singapore, which you would want to benchmark against, it's about 60%. So 60% stays locally and only 40% is accessed from elsewhere, from Europe or from the US. And we said this is what we should move towards, so that all the content comes back here. There is more peering between the telecom operators in the region. And that would enable any service that uses internet as a medium to work effectively, something like television would. They are in Data MENA today. They use our service to access the broader region, and the Internet Exchange is a part of the tool that they use and the CDN that they use. So that's how we believe that that the regional content would come back home.
So I can definitely see the argument on there's new services like Data MENA that benefit from all of this online. But obviously that question of this OTT effect on the telco, is the dumb pipe the way to go for telcos?
I think different telcos have a different strategy towards it. We have embraced the OTT strategy. We have come out at GITEX, we launched our own OTT platform, the Do View platform, and that's rolling out as we speak. We've actually worked with an OTT platform like ICFlix for a direct billing relationship. So if you want to subscribe any service, and one of our strengths we realize as a telecom operator is the billing ability. So we allow people to bill ICFlix services through our mobile services. So we have a relationship and they can buy services on ICFlix, use the Do Self-Care account. So that makes it easy. So we don't believe that it's going to be we believe that it's a change that will happen. We will evolve, the OTTs will evolve, and there's an opportunity for all the players.
So what I get there is obviously there's new business you can get into. CDN, smart CDNs, content delivery networks, for those people who don't know, are a new business. You know, we had a conversation outside saying there's not really a lot of CDNs here, nor is there federation CDNs, meaning connections between the telcos so they share data and thus reduce their pain. And then, of course, the one point you touched on I think is incredibly important is the ability for a telco, more so than a pay TV or a free-to-air, to take care of the transactions because of the the concerns with credit card use by the customers in these territories. So that is something that seems to be there, though from my own opinion, I think it hasn't been capitalised as much.
It hasn't, you're right, it hasn't been. And something that we're working on, we're working with the providers, seeing if that's something that they would like us to do, we can bill on their behalf and have a direct billing relationship.
Rob, I'll jump to you now. Free-to-air, obviously you deal for pay and free-to-air companies worldwide. I was making some broad statements before that obviously customers, a lot of the youth particularly, have gone completely online, which then makes you think that the free-to-airs have lost an audience. But you have some views that free-to-air and pay are expanding.
Certainly, our research tells us that at the moment there are approximately 1 billion people who are watching digital television at the moment. The forecast for 2020 is that there'll be 1.5 billion watching digital television in 2020. And that's expanding across all platforms. Yes, I agree with you that US cable is losing subscribers at the moment, but cable is growing in other regions. For example, if you take India, there are 27,000 cable operators who will obviously merge at some time, but they are providing services. So we are seeing that there's still an expansion in the pay TV and digital TV arena, but all broadcasters are actually adding something to their service, which is the OTT service. For example, iPlayer, which would be the example of the biggest OTT service that on offer, is done in conjunction with a free-to-air terrestrial satellite cable and IPTV offering. You can get BBC on all formats, but you can also get their iPlayer over.
But the business model for BBC to do that was a little different than, say, the US networks with Hulu. It was because, if you don't know, all the people in England pay through tax to pay for BBC, and they pay quite a lot of money each year to do so. And as a result, the content is free, it's without ads, and it was deemed that it should be available everywhere.
That's right. That is the BBC's mantra, that if they put it on one platform, they've got to put it on every other platform. But, I mean, they're not the only ones. There are lots of other pay OTT platforms. Sky, you quoted. I don't want to stick to the UK because a lot of the other American networks as well are delivering very good OTT services. What we're finding is, if you take an average of how many people are watching TV on a daily basis, the average person watches about 3 hours, in some countries 4 hours, the US, of broadcast TV every day. The OTT platforms to date anyway are in addition to that. So the second screen, the second TV, the second mobile phone in the home is in addition to the broadcast services. Now, whether that will change in the future, that's the debate. Again, our forecast says that about 50% of content consumed in 2020 will be live television, and the other 50% will either be catch-up or OTT. So we're seeing a shift in that direction, but the broadcasters are actually increasing the subscription rates, not decreasing the subscription rates at the moment. So you're still seeing some growth coming through, in spite of OTT should be seen as an addition and not in place of.
Now, you mentioned India as a growth for pay television. Why?
India, particularly India, has been under-televisioned, if you like. There are a large number of subscribers who don't have TV. But if you look at what's happened in DTH in India at the moment, yes, at low ARPU, but we've got at least 5 DTH operators, each with at least 10 million subscribers. It's forecast that Indian DTH will overtake certainly the US within the next couple of years, and we'll see a continued growth there. But again, it comes back down to why they're doing it. Content in India is freely available across all platforms. You cannot sell your Indian content to just one broadcaster. All channels have to be available on all platforms. So that's driven, again, things like the Indian Premier League cricket, which incidentally will probably be the first sports channel to go in 4K, and that'll be in India in the new season. So
and that's a subscription service, or that's free to air?
No, it'll be on a subscription service.
And of course, there's big money behind that, and it's not just from subscription; it's from gambling and other things like that.
Exactly. But I mean, the model is that a broadcaster will broadcast 4K cricket, and that they will, the subscriber will have to pay for it.
And then they'll upsell them to all the other content,
Exactly.
traditional pay TV model.
Yeah, exactly.
Mustafa, security is obviously a big issue for you. Doing a legal OTT service as you are, security is definitely hurting you. I think there's, the comments I made on our way in is there's, in your space, in the music space, there's some very, very good music providers who are creating better services than just going and finding yourself. And as was the case with the old days of Napster, where they were allowing for illegal file sharing, they've gone. And your iTunes, your Spotify's, your Beats, etc. are now dominant. Security doesn't seem to be too much of an issue in the music space anymore. Is that the case, or is it still bad?
Exactly, because if we get back to the problem here is to monetize from the whole industry. I mean, even in the US, the cost of running a service that offer premium content, is it music or video, is very expensive. And when it comes to monetization, you find the telecom is suffering from the high volume of data consumption, and the provider is suffering from the high price of the content itself. If we get back to the consumer level, what the customer needs is premium content, high quality, and cheap as possible. If he found it for free, he will never pay. And as mentioned in the previous panel, if you have a premium show and on the same day what you are airing it on TV for the first time, it's available for free on whatever YouTube or the emotional whatsoever, the whole equation will never be successful anymore. That's why we have to work together to change the equation. Right now we have premium content, okay, we all have a premium content. But what about quality? What about speed? What about how to get the access to the end user? If the user finds a difference between legal service with premium content, with very nice speed and let's say low price, comparing it with a legal one with low speed, he will sometimes go to the premium one, and then the equation will level up for the case or for the sake of the legal guys.
Now, music was probably the first affected by OTT. Obviously with online, at those days, smaller or slower speeds, but still allowed for music delivery because of smaller file size. That's been overcome to a degree, as I just pointed out. But what's next? Is it working out how to actually cut off the illegal providers? Is it partnership with other major players? Where do you see it?
We have an example with T-Mobile when they created a whitelisting a whole bunch of legal music services to be whitelisted on the platform. In their case, they make it, for free of data bundle, but you can make it available only for the users. This way, it's not a partnership, it's not a commitment from the telecom part towards the service provider, but on the same side, it makes it easier for them to compete in more healthier environment. It's either this or direct partnership between telecom and OTT provider to provide a bundled offer, something like what's been here in Emirates, like offering an OTT service on the platform of the telecom for a very nice price and good speed. Either way, it's a collaborative work between service providers and telecom to go together for a better offer for the end user. It's not easy to educate the end user that it's illegal or it's not legal. But it's easier to give them better service than the legal one.
Look, we'll get into bundles probably towards the end, because that might be part of the answer. What about net neutrality? What's happening around the world, even in these territories, is some services get restricted or get in some way affected so that they don't deliver the best services. In the case in the States, where you had Comcast actually was degrading the service for Netflix, it allowed Comcast to actually put new technology in and then charge Netflix to deliver the network to be able to deliver a more reliable fee. Now, what that did is it helped Comcast deliver less traffic across their core network, so it improved their margin, and it got a fee from Netflix. And the customer was happy because they got a great, reliable service, better than they could get off other telcos, but obviously Netflix was very angry. Other telcos have now copied exactly that. But now those providers have all gone to the US government and campaigned for net neutrality. And net neutrality means everybody is on the same level. And now what's happened is the US government has, Obama just released the other day, that he sees the internet as a utility, as a service, meaning everybody is on the same level. Paulo, you understand this space. What do you think is going to happen there? Could you see that happening here? Could you see that net neutrality takes away any ability by the telcos to be able to protect themselves against these OTT players, be legal or illegal?
Well, when you were speaking in the beginning and saying that the profits from the telcos were decreasing from 80-something% to 45%, it doesn't really make me sad. 45%, I think it's very good for
that's where they are now.
Business, yeah.
And in the future, it's going to be less.
So while OTT services are struggling to be profitable, so I think it's there has to be a balance there. What you see in the US with Netflix is that they're extremely profitable right now. So they're taking a huge percentage of the traffic from the American internet. So that makes sense that they should pay a little bit more to use that infrastructure. I think here the situation is still completely different. And I believe that net neutrality has to be applied also here.
So you do agree that it should be equal for all, and people shouldn't be blocked?
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm sure you would want the telcos to block security. Block for piracy. And I gather everybody would like that.
In that case, that should be, like in France, like what's being done in France right now, is that you
what
have
happens in France for the audience around security?
So the pirate websites and the consumers are being monitored, and if you as a consumer downloads illegal content, you'll get a warning from your ISP. On the second or third time, your connection will be cut.
Mahesh, you obviously take care of a lot of data flow here. Are you seeing that there's a growing need to look at piracy, look at ways of restricting illegal content delivery?
Piracy is definitely a concern. We also run an IPTV service, and for us that substitutes that service, and which is why we are part of the anti-piracy coalition along with NBC and OSN and the whole.
But what does that mean? Because obviously as a telco, you have the ability to be able to do deep packet inspection, which means the ability to open up the packets and see what's been delivered and saying no. But telcos worldwide are very hesitant about jumping into that space, because if a telco does that and it becomes obvious, they lose the customers to the telco who doesn't do that. So obviously, you might be part of a group, but what are you doing to stop the piracy?
So we work with the regulator. The regulator has a list of sites that are not permitted, and those are
But that's about porn and other things like that. That's not about BitTorrent as much, because you can still find BitTorrent services very easily here.
Yes.
Is there, and I'm putting words into your mouth here, are we waiting for a state-run decision where the state says you're supposed to block all these guys and all the telcos do it together, and therefore there's no impact on each one of their businesses?
Not really, but I'm probably not in the right, I'm not handling that part of the business to be able to answer that question. But yeah, I would say do is looks at it as an ISP and allows all the sites. So there's an argument against both of them, saying that then we would be the judge of which sites are to be open and which are blocked, which you've said that shouldn't be. So I think there is a debate to be had on saying who should define these sites as being piracy, and then we take action against them. So,
now, Dr. Aid, your service is obviously affected by piracy, but you've also got censorship to be concerned about.
Yeah.
How do both of those affect your business, and what can you do to step around those issues?
Well, I believe first of all we have to look into the reasons why do people like piracy, or why do they go for piracy. And in our analysis, we find out that there are a couple of reasons, one of which is the availability or the window of right. Second thing is the pricing of the service. And of course, having the content to be available in certain markets. Having said that, our strategy, of course, was affordable pricing and to work with the studios to get the windows of right at the right time, or as close as possible to the end users. But from censorship point of view, we find out both sides. There's some viewers who don't want to have the content to be censored, but in the other side, we find that if we put it uncensored, then also we get criticized. So
you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. So sometimes you gotta work on something reasonable. Especially that our main focus is in to provide the service in Saudi Arabia, and it's a pretty much conservative, viewership over there.
So piracy is, you touch on the fact that rights and windows and things like that, and Hollywood pretty much brought the video on demand window up to the same day as DVD or the video shops in some territories a couple of years ago. And that obviously helped stave off a lot of the theft. Obviously in Saudi Arabia, you've still got issues there where there's no cinemas, so people go and steal because there's no cinemas, which means therefore that the video on demand and the pay TV window is affected. On the TV series area, what I'm seeing worldwide, and Paulo, I'll ask you this question, is we're finding pay TV or free-to-air buy up exclusive rights. In the case of, say, HBO, which OSN has the exclusive rights to in this territory, which obviously has premium content that creates a lot of reason for theft, what we're seeing is someone like a pay TV or a free-to-air will buy it, particularly when it's a pay TV. The pay TV has limited reach in regards to they might have 10%, 20%, 30% of the market. But you'll find that therefore, because of their promotions of that content, it creates more piracy, more theft in that market due to the awareness of that title than otherwise. Is that happening here? It'll turn
like I can't really comment on the effect here in the region. We don't have enough data to dig deeper into that topic. But yes, I assume that the awareness of popular content, when not available to the whole population, might generate that sort of behavior.
Rob, you're obviously travelling a lot, and you're across large regions, and as you said, you understand where it's growing, where it's not growing. This question of piracy might be slightly out of your area, but I'm sure you come in contact with it. What are we seeing as the answers here? You've got the need, as I just said, for certain players to have exclusive rights for content, but then it actually drives more piracy, is what I'm saying. Are you seeing the same thing?
So, well, on the broadcast systems, then I think the people who are encrypting or providing encryption services are getting stronger encryption and more DRM across their services, and a lot of the content owners are refusing to release content unless it is guaranteed to be fully protected and fully encrypted across those networks. They will not let you buy that content if there's any way it can be, they believe it can be pirated.
Yeah, unfortunately I could take you to a couple of sites to show everything.
I'm sure.
So, look, I'm well aware of encryption and all the rest of it, but people find a way around those things. And they get the content either off a telecine out of the cinema or a stolen file, or and it gets out there. Now, so we've touched on a range of things here as a way to kind of defend the traditional players, to defend against OTT. There's pricing, there's exclusivity, there's net neutrality. What about bundling? Bundling seems to be, or should I go one step further and say partnering, seems to be one of the answers. From a dude's point of view, could you see partnerships happening with the broadcasters? More than just buying content, but truly partnering?
What we are seeing is that everybody actually wants to be on the OTT. So you see the telecom operator wanting to be on the OTT. The broadcaster wants to be on OTT, and you have independent service providers who want to be collecting and being on the OTT. So there is a bit of competition that's coming up in the OTT market. There's also the barrier to entry to becoming an OTT is very, very low. You can become an OTT rather quickly. Developing the software, creating an app isn't that difficult. So there is a whole lot of OTT players coming into the market, and so we do believe that partnership is a way to go, that we'll bundle with some of them, but the challenge remains to see who is the best and who do we work with to understand and go into the market with. So I think that's where the question comes for us.
You see partnering as a future for you?
Absolutely, yes. You know, we see it with, it goes in different levels. We're working with a telco operator to bundle this, the OTT service along with their telecommunication services. Also bundling happened with mobile phone manufacturers as well as TV sets manufacturers. So yes, and soon, you know, this could happen.
And OSN obviously does deals with everybody across the region. Are you getting any deeper into partnerships? So you're doing something beyond where it's just a content deal, where you both have skin in the game?
So we have currently our services available in different IPTV and cable providers, as you know.
Yep.
In terms of our OTT service, Go by OSN, we've launched the service together with Vodafone Qatar, the launch of the 4G network there, and we're working on other partnerships across the region as well. So we believe that bundling with the telco providers is one of the ways to go to sort out your billing issues, also in terms of quality of your service, but also one fact that you were mentioning about the traffic being cheap in Saudi Arabia or even the UAE, but if you go to other markets like Jordan or Egypt, it's actually the other way around. Mobile traffic is extremely expensive, speeds are extremely low. So the average broadband speed in Egypt right now, we have about 50% of the population with 500 kilobits per second.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different scenario from what you have in Saudi Arabia, and people have quotas like 5 gigabyte or 10 gigabyte for the whole month. So partnering, if you don't partner, of course, with 2, 3, 4 movies from my service, you'll kill your quota for the whole month.
Yeah.
So that's critical that we partner and find a solution to white label the traffic from these legitimate services, where we are partnering with the operator and bringing some revenue also to their pockets.
Now, we're getting the wrap up. So, do we have time for some questions?
Yes, we have time for questions. Before that, I just want to add that this panel is especially supported by Ericsson, and I'd like Roger Bolton to share for at least 2 minutes about the CPU GPU debate, which was part of the whole OTT panel discussion.
By all means. So what we're seeing happening is traditional broadcasters have always used hardware-based encoding as their method of compressing video to deliver all of their networks. And the OTT people have traditionally used software because most of what they're distributing is non-real time. What's happening though, before we get to that, is there's a convergence that the broadcasters are having between their broadcast services and their over-the-top services. That has actually meant that the lines between both are blurred. And we are finding that some people want to do it in hardware, some people want to do it in software, and there's a middle way as well, which is the GPU-based encoding platform. And Ericsson's view is that we should accommodate all of those because all of those are happening. If you want absolute premium quality at the lowest bandwidth, you have to still use a hardware-based encoder. If you want OTT at a lower bandwidth, maybe not so higher quality, then software is fine. What we're actually trying to do is to combine all of those so that the broadcaster doesn't have to worry about whether it's hardware, software, or something in between. All they want to do is to have a virtualized encoding platform, if you like, where they send their data to an encoding platform and they get the OTT and the broadcast services out at the quality and the bandwidth they require. And I can see that happening in many regions as well, that you're going to be less concerned with what's encoding it and more concerned with the quality you get out and the quality that your subscribers are looking for.
And just one further question before we open it up here. Are you finding now that the OTT services can compete to the IPTV services or the broadcast services for quality?
Well, certainly a large number of the OTT players are now delivering OTT in HD, and that is completely different to what they were doing 2 or 3 years ago when they were delivering in sub-SD formats. So now there's a blurring between the high quality OTT and the lower quality broadcast. So you're seeing a complete difference. One thing I'd like to leave you with that you touched on is in 5 or 10 years' time, maybe your set-top box will not be what you see it today, but maybe, given the networks, that maybe your mobile phone will become your set-top box.
Absolutely.
And then, you have a different dynamic that you play in that market.
Or your smart TV, or
Or your smart TV.
your fridge.
Yeah.